Both in and out of survival horror, games can be outright terrifying, and what separates scary moments in games from other passive forms of art is that you, the player, must face these fears directly behind the safety of a screen. So the next Halloween horror list compiles the dopest and scariest of these moments, for which I honestly could not think of a less shitty title.
Where are all these goofy fucking names coming from?
Because this is not a list of the scariest moments per se, but a list of scary slash horror themed moments that I happen to find really dope.
I don't get it.
Cause I'm NintenDopeman, and these are the dopest scary game things.
It's a goofy fucking name, okay?
Starting off with what is arguably the first and most iconic scary game moment in history.
Chris, this way.
The setup to this whole thing is what's so majestic. The game's famous first zombie is found at the end of the first hall, but when forced to turn back and enter this hall, the dog is closer to the screen than the character, which is alarming enough to prompt the impulse to just run for it, but then you get sandwiched by another dog.
Jill, sandwich.
At this point, you have about 0.8 seconds to think, fuck, should I stay and fight or run and come back later? It's famous, effective, structured, and is a good representative for all the jump scares of Resident Evil. The first hunter, the giant alligator, and every damn nemesis encounter. Okay, when BioShock first came out, a friend introduced it to me as, and I quote, the best new horror game.
Why are we even friends?
I played it, I loved it, and while I did question his knowledge on the genre of horror, I could see why he was mistaken. It's all freaky as fuck. But a big one that sticks out is the dentist. You enter his office, Celadon tiles obscured by clouds of smoke, and you assume that the corpse with the Black Plague Dr. Bird mask thing is him.
Is that why it's so hard to get an appointment?
But when you check the corner desk here,
Oh my god! Oh my god, you scared me.
Die, zombie!
Dentist.
Yeah, who needs them?
Parasite Eve is a spooky little RPG with some very unsettling Cronenberg-esque body horror imagery.
What's body horror?
Why are we even friends?
Boy, Morty, I really Cronenberg the world up, didn't I?
But nothing beats that opening cutscene of the entire audience at an opera hall spontaneously combusting. Everyone but the two main characters, who just glare at each other through mitochondrian eyes as hundreds of people around them burned alive. To death. It's like that scene from Inglourious Bastards, only those Nazi fucks deserved it.
You got a whole planet of Cronenbergs walking around down there, Morty.
Dead Space is the first great post-Resi 4 survival horror game. It pains me to say that, but this game is packed with fun action and genuine dread. The Necromorphs are of course the stars of the spook show, but the part that made me jump the fuck out of my seat was the wormhole. At first, you just pass by it, maybe thinking,
Whoa, what is that? Do you think it's for watching somebody poop?
but when you come back, save yourself or be dragged to a death too gruesome to fully show on screen.
Hey, honey, you want to take care of this monster for me or what?
Fear is the first garbage post-Resi 4 survival horror game. It's basically a shooter with some freakiness thrown in. However, I would be a biased douchebag hater if I did not give that freakiness its due credit. It all hangs on one famous scene. For the whole game until that point, you've been going up and down ladders no problem. It's not as fun as doing it in Tomb Raider, but neither is anything else. So you have no reason to expect this to happen. And then when you think it's over,
You deserve to die.
Zach, do you remember what the coffee said?
Damn good coffee.
If Twin Peaks was a video game, it would be Deadly Premonition. A game whose poor graphics and performance have come to be considered a part of its charm. But what makes it really charming is the fact that it's an open-world survival horror game. And if Vice City was a horror game, it would be Greenvale, Washington. Although even Vice City had a better frame rate, Jesus Christ. Upon reaching the hospital in the original game, Harry explores the first floor and the basement where he activates a generator that powers the elevator. You go in and you see buttons for 3 floors. You go to the second floor, only to find that it's locked. Okay. You go back inside and go to the 3rd floor, but it's also locked. Weird. What should I do now? Those were all of the... A button for a 4th floor just mysteriously appears in the elevator panel, and it's just a rusty, bloody hallway that serves as the entrance to the hospital's Otherworld. This is a perfect example of what set the series apart from its contemporaries at the time. And even today, if you ask me. Haunting Ground was the Spirit sequel to the Clock Tower series that was better in every way. Better story, better graphics, better gameplay, and of course,
they've got a talking dog.
Hewie partners up with Fiona for the game's entirety, and he can solve puzzles and attack her pursuers. It's a survival horror game with a dog. That's a hell of an elevator pitch. And it doesn't even feel like an escort mission. If anything, Fiona is the escort because Hewie's doing all the work. Even among Silent Hill purists, the 4th game is like the Rodney Dangerfield of the litter.
My whole life, I don't get no respect.
And I always found that as criminal as its plot, because it's so good and so scary, and one reason is its setting. Room 302 is one of the most compelling hub worlds in a video game. Not only because of all the awesome little details, but because of its relevance to the story. Henry Townsend is trapped in his apartment, the door chained from the inside by an antagonist who thinks the actual place is his actual mother. The whole game's goal is to escape this nightmarish room, but it's ironically also a safe haven. Your only piece of respite from Walter's nightmare worlds. That is until halfway through the game, when room 302 slowly grows haunted. And on top of it all, it will stop recovering health. So you better save all the health items, holy candles, saint medallions, ammo, basically everything except for the doll. Do not take the doll.
Ethan. You were right.
Resident Evil hasn't been scary to me since Nemesis, but 7 was such a return to form that they subtitled it in both regions with the opposite regional names. They knew what they were doing, because it actually works both ways, because these are some evil residents. The game is scary from beginning to end, but that beginning, that slow, perfectly paced creep up to the Baker house is like a Rob Zombie movie.
What the fuck is that supposed to mean?
And then when you finally get to Mia, it turns into Texas Chainsaw Massacre on crystal meth.
Bring it.
Most amusement parks have a haunted house ride, but the Lakeside Amusement Park of Silent Hill is, unsurprisingly, basically one big fucking haunted house ride. Now imagine if that place did have an actual haunted house ride.
Welcome to the Borley Haunted Mansion. We're so glad you came.
Named after the most famous haunted house in English history, the attraction contains 6 rooms for Heather to be led through by the disembodied voice of a sinister tour guide.
That's Danny.
They're compelling, alarming, and like everything else in Silent Hill, they symbolize...
something.
Ravenholm was a former mining town converted into a resistant stronghold by refugees of the Combine, an interdimensional alien invasion. The settlement was eventually discovered and attacked with a massive bombardment of headcrab shells, slaughtering the inhabitants by turning them into zombies. It remained abandoned until Half-Life 2, when Gordon Freeman must make his own escape from the Combine and is forced through this haunted wasteland. Armed with the gravity gun, he must carefully blow his way through hordes of zombies, headcrabs, and booby traps laid out by the town's lone survivor. The clever design and scary action are all umbrellaed under a spooky atmosphere that feels like Chernobyl on Halloween, or like someone dropped a nuke on West Virginia, or like the UFO ending of Silent Hill was canonical. These are the reasons why we don't go to Ravenholm anymore. Although we would if the fucks made a third game. Condemned is a first-person horror game whose emphasis on melee combat loads it with some extreme visceral terror. But the section which has you creeping through a deserted mall where mannequins follow you is so scarring that I now buy everything online. The enemies that pretend to be mannequins and then jump you are jarring enough, but it's the actual mannequins that somehow follow you and are always behind you when you turn around that will be the freakiest shit of your life.
Don't you just want to occasionally freak people out?
Almost anyone that's played Amnesia: The Dark Descent and asked what's the most memorable part will allude to the hellish, murky basement. The cellar archives are flooded with water, and while this problem could normally be fixed by a couple of plumbers, they would lose quite a few lives in this case. For in those inches of water is a creature whose invisibility makes these ugly bastards a sight for shifty eyes. You can only see and hear the water splashing around its footsteps, forcing you to trek across the bottom by jumping on scattered debris. And at first, as long as you stay out of the water, it's not that hostile. But then comes that chase sequence. You know that game we played as kids, The Floor is Lava? This is that. Here's the thing about The Last of Us. It is technically a horror game, but it's not very scary. It's sprinkled in there, but those are just sprinkles. That is, until this part. This fucking part is a big fucking sprinkle. First you have to navigate the submerged basement, which gets confusing, but then you get to this.
Oh shit.
It's dark, dank, foggy with spores, notably more suspicious than the flooded section. But hey, look, a generator. Oh, this must turn the lights on. Let me just go ahead and... Once you reach this point, it autosaves and you cannot go back. The first time I played this game, I immediately started the generator, and after a few times of... I just turned it off. It was that scary. And then like the next day, I picked it up and snuck through the whole place until I found the key card and escaped. Now every time I play this game, I always go around the place first, get the key card, and then hit the generator, which will unlock the door to use the key card on, getting me the fuck out of this place. But even then, it's still so freaky that I dread this part as much as I look forward to it.
You're a real angel, Max.
Like many noir crime thrillers, Max Payne is dark and riddled with as many frights as bullets. But the scariest parts have to be Max's hallucinations. Sometimes he's having a nightmare, sometimes he's being drugged, sometimes he just be tripping. But it's always some weird, trippy shit. Slow motion physics, camera lens made out of magic mushrooms, tightrope arteries, stretchy hallways, level design based on dream logic, and breaking the crap out of the fourth wall.
I was in a computer game. Funny as hell, it was the most horrible thing I could think of.
Where's my wife? Morty, you were just playing a game.
These chapters scared me so damn much as a kid, and still kinda do.
My hero.
As if the movie wasn't scary enough, imagine being in it.
I don't want to hear it. We don't know that's intelligent. I want to go home and party.
I didn't want to put more than one stalker on the list, so I put the alien to represent them all. Nemesis might be the more iconic and influential one, But this thing is so freaky. The AI has a higher GPA than most players. There's nothing I can say that I haven't already said in its spot on the dopest bosses, so go watch that when this is over. If there's one thing about Silent Hill 4 that's better than Room 302, it's the people who were murdered in its name. The 21 Sacraments are the 21 victims of serial killer Walter Sullivan. They float around all creepy, they can go through walls, they make this nasty groaning sound, they cause damage just by being near you, and they have this creepy Temple of Doom attack. But then there's the ones you meet. Sexy Cynthia, who ends up being the scariest one. Jasper Gain, who after years of attending Burning Man, became the effigy. Andrew DeSalvo, who honestly had it coming. The ghost can be pinned down with a sword of obedience, but they cannot be killed. And not all of them even end up ghosts. Joseph Schreiber ends up a ceiling fan.
Kill. Kill.
Kill, 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 kill.
Harry and/or Eileen may or may not end up alive. And then there's something so creepy it was foreshadowed 2 entries prior. Just PT. I mean, how can I pick a single moment? This game is a moment. But I guess if I had to pick one...
May the rats eat your eyes!
There's a lot of H.P. Lovecraft games out there, but none captured the essence of his theme of insanity as well as eternal darkness. As the green meter shrivels down, strange things happen. The walls bleed, the camera tilts, statue heads follow you. You'll enter a room and something will happen just to find out you never really entered the room at all. It'll fuck with the TV settings like lowering the volume. It'll fuck with the game settings like saying the controller's been disconnected. Eternal Darkness has over 30 tricks up its sleeve that will drive players mad. I nearly littered this list with just as many Fatal Frame moments as Silent Hill, but when I realized they were all basically moments involving ghosts, I decided to just pick one to represent them all, like the window puppies. That ghost is Kyouka Kuze from Fatal Frame 3. Kyouka spent her life brushing her hair in front of her mirror, waiting for her estranged husband and son to return. When the rift came, she spent her death the same way, until 150 years later when she is put to rest by Rei Kurosawa in the battle that freaks me out more than any other in the series. All the ghosts have their own little patterns, but Kyouka's battle isn't even required. It's a trap! You see her shadow behind the screen, thinking it's just one of the non-hostile collectible hauntings that you have to take a picture of. But when you do... And then during the battle, she just wanders around like she's not even paying attention, and then with zero warning, she'll just appear inches from your face, or just come flailing towards you, or do this cool little dive. But either way, goddamn. Silent Hill 2 is a masterpiece, and every single moment could claim a spot on a list like this, but the one thing to string them all together is the red pyramid thing. Again, what can I say about Pyramid Head that I haven't already said in the one where I made him a fucking Smash Brother? Nothing. He's scary, symbolic, iconic, and the unofficial mascot of my favorite franchise. I have a social experiment for you. Find someone who has never played The Last of Us, or doesn't even play games, or doesn't even consider games an art form, and have them play the prologue of this game. It was designed to captivate.
Listen to me. There is something bad going on. We have got to get out of here. Do you understand me?
Yeah.
The Last of Us is a roller coaster, and the Ballad of Joel and Sarah just sets the tone for a whole lot more.
raining. Are you sleeping?
I'm awake.
You cold? What's the deal with Silent Hill anyway? It used to be a nice, quiet little town. But now...
You've been there?
Once. On a missing persons case. Never did find him. But I'll tell you, that's one screwed up town. My line of work, you hear a lot of nasty rumors.
I was born and raised there.
Sorry. I didn't mean to offend you.
No offense taken.
Anyway, I thought you grew up in Portland. What's wrong? Feeling sick?
My head's pounding like the worst hangover ever.
Maybe you're car sick.
No. I'm just trying to remember. My childhood. Something terrible happened in Silent Hill 17 years ago. A woman named Dahlia. She tried to summon the ancient god of the town. She offered up her very own daughter.
That's crazy.
Maybe so, but it worked. The girl gave birth to a god. You see, that girl had special powers.
Powers?
Her classmates called her a witch. She could make things happen with her mind. She could kill people just by wishing for it. But in the end, that god was killed by a single person. My father, Harry Mason. I guess it wasn't much of a god if it could be killed by a human being. But I think Claudia's trying to do the same thing again. And I've been chosen as the sacrifice.
You've got some kind of power in you too?
After the god was killed, the girl reappeared. She was holding a baby in her arms. Before she died, she gave the baby to my father. Me just like I was his very own daughter. Even though he didn't know who or what I was. It was so sudden. I never had a chance to tell you how happy you made me.
Without going too deep into detail, the general premise of Silent Hill is that it's a haunted town that can manifest people's subconscious fears, guilt, desires, and emotions into reality. And when it fluctuates to its higher degrees, it alters reality into the #1 thing on this list. One of Silent Hill's many famous hooks is that after a while, the level you're exploring, or even the entire town, transitions halfway through into a nightmarish alternative version of itself called the Otherworld. In the Otherworld, darkness blankets the sky. The floors are made of metal fences and the walls of pulsing flesh. Rotting corpses hang on meat hooks. Monsters are somehow even more deformed and deadly. Everything is just bizarro in the Otherworld. The events, the set pieces, the puzzles, and it's all relative and symbolic to the person manifesting it. And at times, the power will reach its zenith and will displace the character into their own mind, as with Nowhere for Alessa and The Labyrinth for James. The Otherworld is a genius idea, and it was brilliantly executed. As you're exploring the already unsettling town of Silent Hill, it suddenly morphs into a more terrifying version of itself that you have to explore all over again, losing your grip on sanity and reality. It's unsettling, disorienting, and just plain fucking creepy. It is the dopest scary game thing. These are still some of the freakiest and emotionally charged moments you could ever experience in a video game. So be sure to smash that like button and leave a comment about your scariest game moment, and maybe it will make the next Halloween list of the dopest scary game things.
These are not real names.